5 p.m. Lafourche Parish Council special meeting of September 1st, 2020 is hereby called to order. Ms. Carleen, can you please conduct roll call?
Yes, sir. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Adams. Here. Mr. Grow. Here. Mr. Melvin is out. Mr. Wendell. Here. Mr. Perilou. Here. Mr. Otan.
Here.
Ms. Boudreaux. Here. Mr. Lorraine. Here. Mr. Chasson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Carleen. I want to thank everyone for recognizing social distancing and as well as wearing your face mask as we continue to abide by the governor's order of phase 2. Thought I heard somebody say something. With that said, I would ask that everyone please rise for the invocation led by Mr. Corey Perilou, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Michael Grove.
If you would just join me in reciting the Lord's Prayer.
Thou art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mass swap. Okay, I do want to remind everyone, with this being a special meeting, that as far as engaging the public or others that want to address the council, it will have to be related to an agenda item. It's just the way our home rule charter is written and the way special meetings work. So anything that you're going to be discussing, if anyone is interested in addressing the council on an agenda item tonight, please fill out a blue card and get it up to the council clerk. With that said, item A, approval of minutes. Number 1, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the August 5th, 2020 special session. So moved by Mr. Perilou, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes by a vote of with 8 yeas and 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 2, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes of the August 11, 2020 regular session. So moved by Mr. Perilou, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item B, Lafourche Parish Outstanding Citizen, Mr. Perilou. Okay, so we'll move on from item B. Item C, presentations and or updates. Do we have any? Ms. Carleen? Okay. Item D, engineers, architect reports. I saw, there we go. Just make sure the mic's on. Remember to state your name and address for the record.
Craig Como, Baroque and Benora Engineers and Consultants, 209 Canal Street, Metairie, Louisiana. Our update this month should be pretty quick. The first is the first project, which is the State Hazard Mitigation Project for Hurricane Gustav. There was a project payment, which was the last update I gave you. This month, we've submitted the project budget amendment for about $2,000 that we're going to be trying to capture in a cost overrun on a project. The cost overrun was actually anticipated years ago, but the budget modification that was submitted years ago was incorrect. And so it's been corrected, and we've gotten that in. We expect that probably within the next month, and that will pay out the final on that project. The next project is FMA 2016. The last action there was that the homeowner needed to select a contractor. We were waiting on a time extension, and that time extension was approved on the 19th of August. So now that the time extension's been approved through August of next year, that homeowner can now select a contractor. I was in communication with him this week, and I expect him to make a decision sometime within the next 7 to 10 days. The next project is the FMA 2017 Flood Mitigation Project. And that project, the last action on that one was the payment to the contractor, which was made on August 17th, 2020. The next project is the 2019 FMA Elevations Project, which is a grant application that was submitted. We had a response to our RFI, or request for information, that was submitted to FEMA on August 14th, and then that, to GOSEP on August 14th, and that was submitted to FEMA on August 17th. The next project is the 2020 FMA and BRIC application development project. So FEMA announced on August 4th an opening of an application period for new applications for this coming fiscal year. And what that means is that there's an application period that will open on September 30th and will go until January 31st. January 31st is when the application is due to FEMA, and prior to that, it will be due to the state first. More than likely, they will want it sometime right before Christmas, if not a little bit earlier. So we would anticipate submitting that application no later than about December 1st to the parish for review. This application is for the application of any property that would like to be elevated. So we've talked about all these elevation grants. Every year, FEMA puts out a certain amount of money for elevation grants. This year, the pool of money that's available for these types of projects is about $86 million nationwide. The grant itself is a competitive grant, which means we're competing against communities nationwide. In order to make an application successful for Lafourche Parish, it has to be properties that are, one, flood insured, and two, properties that have had at least 2 flood losses, but it may require up to 4 flood losses depending on the value of those flood losses. What we anticipate is that the parish should be able to submit that application to the state by the December deadline when it's actually published, and then get that over to FEMA. It takes FEMA roughly 1.5 to 2 years to approve these grants. So again, a lot of homeowners don't understand the idea that, hey, I'm submitting an application now, but this is the time to do it. The BRIC program is Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities, is for community mitigation projects. FEMA is allocating $446.4 million for these projects nationwide, with specific limits at each level for the state. However, in the past, it used to be where you could only submit 1 project per state for these types of projects. This year, there's unlimited applications that can come from the state of Louisiana to FEMA for these projects. So there is the possibility that FEMA will award multiple community mitigation projects. These projects can be things like drainage types of projects, drainage improvements, etc. However, FEMA wants them either already designed, so if there's a previously designed project, or FEMA does allow now for phased approaches to these projects, where you can include in the request for funds the design and the construction of these projects. In the past, you always had to have a project ready to go, a shovel-ready project, so that's kind of changed a little bit this year. FEMA also allows some advanced funding for feasibility analysis on projects as well. So if we have a project that the parish thinks about might be a good idea, FEMA can provide up to about $30,000 for some seed money to kind of start planning and reviewing those that project feasibility. All of this should be formed by the hazard mitigation plan. The parish is currently going through a process of having its current update to the hazard mitigation plan revised and approved by FEMA. That should occur before that January 31st deadline for the applications to get to FEMA. That is being currently done, as I understand it, through the Office of Emergency Preparedness here in the parish. The big thing that for homeowners they need to know is if they're interested in a grant application being submitted for their home for home elevation, they need to, one, make sure they have a current flood insurance policy and can provide the policy declaration page. And number two, like I said earlier, have at least 2 flood claim losses. And what they need to do is contact the Office of Grants and Economic Development here in the parish to start that process. The person they need to contact is Lionel Lagarde, who's the parish's grant writer. And I know the slideshow hasn't been flipping. Do you have, I want to get to that page so that they can actually see. Sorry. There we go. So the information for contacting Lionel, his phone number is 985-493-6673, or they can email him at his parish email address, lagardlj@lafourchegov.org. And again, they should at least have a current flood insurance policy and at least 2 flood claims to make that contact. Once they make the contact, they will be requested additional information that is required for the grant application, and also to start evaluating the properties, because again, as I said earlier, it is a competitive grant program. So not every property that shows interest necessarily makes it into a grant application. And the reason that is the case is we want to provide an application that has the best chance of being selected by FEMA each year when they review the grants. Any questions?
Corey, you have the floor.
Yes. So I have a family in Raceland that perennial flooding situation. Every year, I think they flooded every year in 20 years. They did have flood insurance early on. They had claims against the insurance, but it became unaffordable after so many claims was made against it.
Right.
So my question to you or to FEMA, whoever controls these parameters, waivers, is there any type of waivers that you can think of for someone in that situation that did have flood insurance, but it became unaffordable?
So I will tell you this, is that the BRIC program I described to you earlier, that program does not have the same restriction on flood insurance.
BRIC.
So it does allow for homes to be elevated under that, but the requirement this year, the way they're scoring those applications, requires for larger community-based projects to get the higher points. And so individual home elevation projects, unless they happen to all be in the same neighborhood or community, are going to be hard to get approved. I'm not saying that it's impossible, it's just knowing that the difficulty of getting those approved may not be worth the effort of doing the application. And put, so the key would be to try and, again, properties that have what you've described in terms of flood losses, having a flood insurance policy and keeping in mind that they let it go means that they more than likely own the property, so they're not required by their mortgage to have flood insurance, which means all they need is a minimal policy to be eligible for the grant, which might cut down on some of their costs.
Okay. But maybe on that BRIC program, we can look into that region of like St. Anne Street that has those perennial houses that have water issues, and maybe do a community type approach to it, Archie.
Yeah, and Lionel, I know, does have those residents' contact information, and I don't know if you talked to her after this recent storm when she got really nervous again.
Absolutely.
But we're kind of keeping that in mind with any of the programs that they can either find. There's stuff that pops up through HMGP or something that would have an elevation or acquisition component where we can either get the house raised or just completely buy them out. So it's on Lionel's radar.
Yeah, I'd love to see some remedy for these people because they suffer every year through loss, furniture,
Correct.
everything. So
In all scenarios, they're still going to be responsible for a percentage of the home elevation though, correct?
Not in all scenarios. And remember,
Okay.
we talked about this a couple of meetings ago. So this grant program at a minimum is a 75% cost share from FEMA, and the homeowner is responsible for 25%. If the property has what we call repetitive loss status, which means that they have 4 or more losses of $5,000 or more, then FEMA will cover 90% of that project, and then the homeowner is only responsible for 10. If that property is a severe repetitive loss property, which means that its values are higher, it's had more losses, or it's had a single loss that equaled the market value of the structure, not the property, but the structure, then those properties, again, provided they're flood insured, can receive 100% funding from FEMA with no out-of-pocket expense for the homeowner.
Yeah, I think that's really important to note because raising these homes is pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Mike, you have the floor.
How many communities are in the NFIP? You know,
I
is it-
don't know that off the top of my head, but as you can imagine, a lot of coastal communities are, so pretty much along the East Coast, West Coast, Southern Coast. But there's several. I could definitely look that up and
but
find
it's,
out.
It's a competitive process.
Yeah.
I mean, the money will go quick. I was just gonna ask if we can make sure, like Caroline or Robbie, somebody puts it up on our site or in the social media so people know. And that Lionel is reaching out to people that have flooded and letting them know about it too. And then also it's important to mention that people need to tell us if they flood, like Corey's mentioning. We get the repeat calls, but a lot of times people don't let us know when they had a little water come in.
Mm-hmm.
We need to know this stuff so we can have a database of it for when things like this
That's
come
right.
up. So I think it's important for the public to know that.
And under the FMA program, the flood claims we're talking about are ones where FEMA actually made a payment under BRIC. That kind of information is extremely important if you're looking at community-wide areas that flood. The other thing about this program, and I do want to kind of emphasize, is going back to your question, Last year, FEMA made $90 million eligible for this program. By the time they did not spend all the other money in the other priorities, they had about $105 million, of which the state of Louisiana received awards of about $50 million of that number. So Louisiana as a whole is very aggressive in pursuing and getting these awards. Now, as you can imagine, those other communities, Texas, Florida, et cetera, are becoming more acute to the fact that these grants are out there, so they will start to pick up some of those dollars.
Very good. Anyone else have any questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, I saw Jack walked in the room. Did he walk back out? You have the floor if you want it, Jack. Just remember to state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Jack Plazos with PCOla and Associates. Ladies and gentlemen, I just have a couple of quick updates, status reports for you on two projects that we're keeping track of. First of all, being the Choctaw Levee Rehabilitation and Permitting. You've heard me before on this. A joint permit application was submitted back in 2018, May. DNR issued mitigation assessment in January of last year with about a quarter acre of impacts. And to date, we have not received a final mitigation assessment from the Corps of Engineers. So we're waiting on the Corps of Engineers to finalize impact assessment. I wanted to just give you a brief update on the community center here in Lockport. Onshore has completed all the major work items. They've been substantially complete since May, mid-May. And there are a few minor punch list items that are still being worked out. Keys were turned over to the parish probably 2 months ago, and retainage has not been issued out to the contractor for the completed project. But we're anticipating a clear lien certificate soon, and we'll close out final payments to onshore.
All right, any questions or comments? All right, thank you, Jack, appreciate it.
Thank you. Good evening.
Any other engineer or architect reports? Okay, there being none, we'll move to item E, public wishing to address the council, public hearings, agenda items, etc. Ms. Carleen?
I have no one, sir.
Okay. Item F, public hearing and ordinances for ratification. I entertain a motion to open public hearing. So moved by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Grow. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 3, ordinance providing for a 2020 supplemental appropriation 20-028 within the 2020 operations and maintenance budget and capital outlay budget to cover the cost for the West 58th Street drainage project and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Moved by Ms. Boudreaux for the administration, second by Mr. Lorraine. Would anyone from the public like to comment on this ordinance? 1 time? 2 times? Anyone from the public 3 times? Anyone from the council wants to discuss this? There being none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 4, ordinance providing for a 2020 supplemental appropriation 20-027 within the 2020 operations and maintenance budget. Am I looking at the wrong thing?
There's a 4 and a 5 on mine.
There is a 4 and a 5 on
There's no 3. So it's on 4, yeah. So you're on 5 now. No, I got it.
No, hold on 1 second. Well, as long as I'm reading the ordinance correct, the item number really doesn't matter. I mean, our agendas look one way and theirs is saying another one.
Well, it may be because they're looking at the one from the August 25th, which was from tonight, too.
It's okay, we'll get it straight.
You're right. That was part of the mail, probably. Right, Rachel? That was put with their mail?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. One that was in an envelope?
Good? You good? Okay. All right. So once again, item 4, ordinance providing for a 2020 supplemental appropriation 20-027 within the 2020 operations and maintenance budget to increase the budget covering 6 lease payments for a 2020 super long front excavator and costs related to the COVID-19 pandemic supplement 2, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Moved by Councilman Adams for the administration, second by Councilman Jones. Would anyone from the public like to comment on this ordinance? 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. Anyone from the council? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 5, ordinance amending ordinance number 6286, establishing the location of the unmuffled compression brakes prohibited signs, one being placed on the southbound shoulder of Highway 3185, approximately 550 feet south from the intersection of Highway 1 and scratched out on the shoulder of Highway 3185, and the other sign being placed on the northbound shoulder of Highway 3185, approximately 700 foot north from scratched out before the intersection of Talbot Avenue and Highway 3185 and scratched out intersection in Thibodaux, Louisiana, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Grove for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. Would anyone from the public like to comment on this? 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. Anyone from the council? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. And I will now entertain a motion to close public hearing. So moved by Mr. Perilou, second by Mr. Wendell. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item G, proposed ordinances. Mr. Wendell, will you be so kind as to read proposed ordinances?
Number 6, proposed ordinance amending ordinance 6216 to increase the speed limit from 15 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour in Terre Haute Place, Houma, Louisiana, Ward 11, District 5, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of speed limit signs and providing for the penalties for violations thereof. Moved by Mr. Perilou on my behalf. Number 7, proposed ordinance to rescind ordinance numbers 3341, 5013, and 6217 as it pertains to various speed limits on Mary Beth Avenue, Houma, Louisiana, Ward 11, District 5, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana. Moved by Mr. Perilou on my behalf as well. Number 8, proposed ordinance establishing a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit on Mary Beth Avenue, Houma, Louisiana, Ward 11, District 5, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of speed limit signs, and also to provide for the placement of 1 yellow reduced speed sign below the first speed limit sign traveling from Terre Haute Place at the foot of the bridge, and providing for penalties for violations thereof. Moved by Mr. Perilou on my behalf. Item 9, proposed ordinance establishing a 5-mile-per-hour speed limit on Jewel Street, extending to the Jewel Street Extension, Houma, Louisiana, Ward 11, District 5, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of 1 speed limit sign 50 feet from the intersection of Terre Haute Place, and providing penalties for the violations thereof. Moved by Mr. Perilou on my behalf. Item 10, proposed ordinance establishing a no parking fire lane throughout Jewel Street, extending to the intersection of Jewel Street Extension, Houma, Louisiana, Ward 11, District 5, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of 1 no parking fire zone sign to be installed onto the speed limit sign on Jewel Street, and providing for penalties for violations thereof. Moved by Mr. Perilou on my behalf. Item number 11, proposed ordinance amending ordinance number 5723 to reduce the speed limit from 25 miles per hour to 15 miles per hour on Chestnut Ridge Drive in Highland Oaks Subdivision, Gray, Louisiana, Ward 11, District 5, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of speed limit and children at play signs, and also to add 1 speed check by radar sign at the first speed limit sign coming from the service road southwest, and providing for penalties for the violation thereof. Moved by Mr. Perilou on my behalf. Item number 12, proposed ordinance amending number 5723 to reduce the speed limit from 25 miles per hour to 15 miles per hour on Magnolia Bluff Drive in Highland Oaks Subdivision, Gray, Louisiana, Ward 11, District 5, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of speed limit signs and providing penalties for the violation thereof. Moved by Mr. Perilou on my behalf. Proposed ordinance amending ordinance number 5723 to reduce the speed limit from 25 miles per hour to 15 miles per hour on Red Maple Drive in Highland Oaks Subdivision, Gray, Louisiana, Ward 11, District 5, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of speed limit signs and providing for penalties for the violations thereof. Moved by Mr. Parallel on my behalf. Item number 14, proposed ordinance amending ordinance number 5723 to reduce the speed limit from 25 miles per hour to 15 miles per hour on Highland Oaks Avenue and Highland Oaks Subdivision, Gray, Louisiana, Ward 11, District 5, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of speed limit and children at play signs, providing for the placement of one speed check by radar sign at the first speed limit sign coming from Louisiana Highway 316, Bayou Blue Road, and providing for the placement of two 5 miles per hour yellow advisory speed limit signs with one facing each direction at the rear 90-degree curve on Highland Oaks Avenue and providing for penalties for the violations thereof. Moved by Mr. Parallel on my behalf. Proposed ordinance amending ordinance number 5723 to reduce the speed limit from 25 miles per hour to 15 miles per hour on River Birch Avenue in Highland Oaks Subdivision, Gray, Louisiana, Ward 11, District 5, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of speed limit signs and providing for the penalties for violations thereof. Moved by Mr. Parallel on my behalf. Item 16, proposed ordinance amending ordinance number 5723 to reduce the speed limit from 25 miles per hour to 15 miles per hour on Hickory Knoll Avenue in Highland Oaks Subdivision, Gray, Louisiana, Ward 11, District 5, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of speed limit and children at play signs and providing for the penalties for violations thereof. Moved by Mr. Parallel on my behalf. Proposed ordinance amending ordinance number 6040 to reduce the speed limit from 25 miles per hour to 15 miles per hour on Loblolly Pine Drive in Highland Oaks Subdivision, Gray, Louisiana, Ward 11, District 5, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, providing for the placement of speed limit signs and providing penalties for violations thereof. Moved by Mr. Parallel on my behalf. Item 18, proposed ordinance establishing a three-way stop at the intersection of Highland Oaks Avenue and Red Maple Drive in Highland Oaks Subdivision, Gray, Louisiana, Ward 11, District 5, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, installing the necessary 2 additional stop signs and providing for penalties for the violations thereof. Moved by Mr. Parallel on my behalf. Number 19, proposed ordinance establishing a three-way stop at the intersection of Highland Oaks Avenue and Loblolly Pine Drive in Highland Oaks Subdivision, Gray, Louisiana, Ward 11, District 5, Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, installing the necessary 2 additional stop signs and providing for penalties for the violations thereof. Moved by Mr. Parallel on my behalf. Proposed ordinance approving a servitude agreement between several property owners in the Lafourche Parish government and the Raceland area and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and all relative documents. Moved by Mr. Melvin for administration. Item number 21. By Mr. Grove for administration. We good, Ms. Carleen?
Yes, thank you, Linda.
Item number 21, proposed ordinance providing for a 2020 supplemental appropriation 20-026 within the 2020 operations and maintenance budget to increase the budget for the low-income home energy assistance program agreement and to increase the program agreement with the CARES Act funding and authorize the parish president to sign, execute, administer all transactions as provided for by Article 6 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Mr. Jones for administration. Item number 22, proposed ordinance providing a variance in the proposed revision of Lot 9 to the estate of Florence Simon Melizon. Tibu, that's it? Melizon? Into Lot 9A and Lot 9B with no recommendation by Lafourche Parish Planning Commission. Moved by Mr. Adams for administration. Proposed ordinance amending ordinance number 6327 that amended ordinances numbers 6281, 6301, and 6311, which adopted the 2020 operations and maintenance and capital budget for Lafourche Parish Council, as well as setting salaries of unclassified employees as provided for by Article 5 of the Lafourche Parish Home Rule Charter. Moved by Mr. Jones for administration. Proposed ordinance amending the reenacting of Chapter 34 Special Districts of the Code and Ordinances, creating Article, gotta add that up. XXVI, Industrial Development Board for the Parish of Lafourche Incorporated, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, administer any and all relative documents. Moved by Mr. Adams for administration. Proposed ordinances amending ordinance number 5785 that approved a lease agreement for 10 years between Lafourche Parish Government and Santo Lusco Jr. to provide for a public boat launch and canal use, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, administer said lease agreement and all relative documents. Moved by Mr. Parallel on my behalf for administration. Item number 26, proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche, Special Services District Number 1, moved by Mr. Adams for administration. Proposed ordinances levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche, drainage, health, and library, moved by Mr. Adams for administration. Proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche for road district number 1, moved by Mr. Adams for administration. Number 29, proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche for recreational facilities, moved by Mr. Adams for administration. Item number 30, proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche for public buildings, moved by Mr. Adams for administration. Item number 31, proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche for library. Number 14, moved by Mr. Adams for administration. Proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes in 2020 for all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche for library. Number 17, moved by Mr. Adams for administration. Proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche for health unit, moved by Mr. Adams for administration. Item number 34, proposed ordinances levying the imposing of taxes for 2020 on all the property subject for taxation in the parish of Lafourche drainage district parish-wide, moved by Mr. Adams for administration. Item number 35, proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche for criminal tax, moved by Mr. Adams for administration. Number 36, proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche for the Council on Aging, moved by Mr. Adams for administration. Item number 37, proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche, general alimony, moved by Mr. Adams for administration. Item number 38, proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche, fire district number 9, moved by Mr. Paraloo for administration. Item number 39, proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche for the Veterans Memorial District, Ward 10, moved by Mr. Lorraine for administration. Item number 40, proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche for Recreation District Number 2, moved by Mr. Paraloo for administration. Did I leave anything out?
Got 3 more.
Oh, really?
Getting good.
My goodness. Item number
breath.
41, proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche Fire Protection District Number 1, moved by Mr. Paraloo for administration. Item number 42, proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche Fire Protection District Number 7, moved by Mr. Adams for administration. Item number 43, proposed ordinance levying and imposing taxes for 2020 on all the property subject to taxation in the parish of Lafourche for Fire Protection District Number 4, moved by Mr. Adams for administration.
Very good, Mr. Window, much appreciated. And that's, you can blame all that on Mr. Adams, all these taxes he's trying to get out of here.
Well, the first 30 were mine, so I guess.
Okay, whew, very good, thank you so much. Okay, item H, resolutions. Number 44, resolution approving the parish president's appointment of Nicole Ditch for the position of Community Services Director for Lafourche Parish Government and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. This is moved by Mr. Adams for the administration. It was deferred from the 8/11/2020 LPC meeting. Second by Mr. Window. Any discussion from the council? No one has anything, Mr. President, nothing?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. One, I know we've talked about this a lot over the last couple of weeks and heard some concerns of you guys. One, first of all, being the budget. I know we all got a little sticker shock when we saw that $4,300 royalty check, and I think that got a few of you a little concerned. So let me first say that this is not funded out of royalty. This is broken up between the different functions that Community Services manages. Secondly, we heard some concerns about experience level. When we interviewed her, Nicole really rose to the top one. She had some management background and working for her family business for a number of years. But mostly, the companies she's worked for the last few years in Houma, and I'm going to read this straight from their site. It says their passion is to see families break cycles, move from conflict into unity, and turn hopelessness into empowerment that has led many of our clients to improve their situation significantly. This is what community service is all about. It's about, raising our young kids from Head Start through recreation and in dealing with the most impoverished in our community. So who better to fit that role than someone who has done this for the last several years? And I guess lastly, the third concern was, could we do this in-house? And in theory, that sounds great, and there's probably, 30 people in this room here tonight, but there's only one, and part of that was, well, can we just fold the office and let the parish administrator run it? Well, again, there's about 30 people in this room, but there's only one guy in here who's ever been the parish administrator and tried to run a community services department. That's me. And I will tell you that it's not easy. And it wasn't easy back then, and it's definitely not easy now when we have COVID and Melissa's trying to get people back to school and staff back to school. We're trying to revamp our rec programs. We're trying to spend a hellacious amount of money inside community action because of all the CARE Act dollars, as well as trying to build a coroner's office, a new office. And look, Chairman, we spent about 3 hours in that new community center a couple of weeks ago trying to program it. We'd have had a director, that'd have freed me and Mitch up to do some more meetings on the budget as we try to prepare that to get to you guys in a very, what will hopefully not be a rough financial situation, because we've been working pretty hard and Renita and her staff have been. So I say that all to say that you guys have trusted me through 6 other department heads, right? We have done everything as open and as honest as we can. And I will say that while I understand those concerns and those managers in those offices do a great job, it's not a department that needs a part-time person. It needs somebody who can be there and do guidance and leadership on a day-to-day basis as we tackle some of these issues. So I would just ask for your support and as we put her in place. So thank you.
Mr. Lorraine?
Yes, this is a position that needs to be filled. There's too many different agencies that report to the administration, and they got their hands full. So I think it was handled properly. They had about 20 applicants. I think the one that they recommended should be all right. And I had an opportunity to sit down with them and her and the Lynn, and I don't see any problem with it. Because, if you don't have somebody in charge of everybody, some of them just do what they want. And I think this will be a good choice.
Thank you, Mr. Lorraine. If no one else has any other comments, Mr. Grove? Oh. I'm sorry, Mr. Wendell, go ahead. Mr. Wendell, go ahead.
Colorblind, huh?
Okay, I've spent the last 22 years of my life, community action, community services, depending on how you slice it. I understand the importance, starting off early with the early education, the recreation, and moving into this. I spend quite a bit of my time dealing with this group of people that fit into what community services, community action reap the rewards from, or sometimes that's their only hope. I've done quite a bit of research on Ms. Ditch, as well as want to thank the administration for making her available to speak to whoever needed to speak to her. And although I'm in complete agreement with this position needing to be filled, need to be staffed full-time, I've also taken the opportunity to look at the budget on what the position used to pay, what it pays now, some ins and outs of it, and I'm in agreement and that this is definitely something that needs to be filled and that we need to act on, so that none of these programs that are supporting these individuals in our community begin to suffer or don't get the attention that they need because someone is split between roles and responsibilities. So that's all I wanted to say on that.
Thank you, Mr. Wendell. Mr. Perilou?
Yeah, if you think the position needs to be filled, it should be filled. My only concern with, and I didn't meet the candidate, I didn't get a chance. I've been working a lot of hours lately. Qualifications. It's a concern for me because we have several department or managers over these programs that have been working for the parish for several years. And to hire a director that really, I didn't see a whole lot of executive type experience or managerial experience over people or processes or departments like that. So it causes pause for me, Archie, knowing that, like you just said, it's a very difficult position to keep a handle on and keep all these moving parts. in oversight. So I don't know if she's here tonight or anything, but I would venture to say I think it would be a good idea to hear a little bit from her and see how she thinks she can handle that environment, you know, as far as managing already skilled managers.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, if I can, Nicole, if you want to come up to the mic and address them, I mean, I'd welcome that. And let me see again, Corey, I get that this is the checks and balances deal, right? And at the end of the day, if she were to fall flat on her face, which I wholeheartedly don't expect her to do, you guys can all say, I told you so. But look, as with Dylan and Mitch and Renita and Savanya and Christy, if I didn't think she was up to the challenge, I wouldn't have brought her here. I mean, I'm not gonna bring a substandard applicant to you guys, knowing the trust that you've put in me, the trust that you've put in the other department heads and the jobs that they've done for the first 7 months. I wouldn't have done it. So, I mean, I get it on paper, I could be a brain surgeon tomorrow, I think. You know, I took a couple biology classes, I might be able to sell it. You know, so it's all in how you write it. I get it when you look at it on paper. But believe me, if I didn't believe wholeheartedly that she was the one to lead this department, I wouldn't have brought it to you. But with that, I'll let her.
In just a minute, let's, Mike, you want to go ahead and have any comments?
Yeah, sure. And I brought up a concern when you first sent it out. You know, back in 2017, we abolished that department, you know, and I was quoted saying, you know, I'm not abolishing a department, I'm abolishing a department head. You know, I really think that, you know, those departments are all very strong departments, but I find it very difficult to hire somebody, you know, new that, and if you work in that type of environment, I get it, but, and I've gotten calls about Ms. Ditch, you know, and people that are very, you know, recommended her that I respect. Just to head up the coroner's office, the animal shelter, recreation, community action, I just think that's a heck of a job for one person, you know. I think the salary's fine, and I know it's budgeted, and, you know, because of everything that's been going on, we didn't have any recreation this summer, you know, and it maybe gave these departments and us time to fill these recreation boards, you know, because it's tough to build those boards back. But we've got capable people running these departments without a department head boss, and that $65,000 can go back into the general fund, though, right? You know, theoretically, it could go back. So, and when we voted to get rid of Mr. Lorraine was the only one in the past council that voted to keep it. You know, we had one person absent, but we voted to abolish the whole department head deal, and it was really just the job. It was not about that they needed a supervisor who would run and lean back then, and it's even leaner now. You know, and that's just my 2 cents. It's really not the person more than I just feel like some people that are in the animal shelter, in the coroner's office, and all just need to pull up their bootstraps and do it themselves. Just to be frank.
Thank you, Mr. Grove. Yeah, I will state that I was one of them that did vote to abolish that, which that is, for those who don't know, the Home Rule Charter does not mandate a community services director. That is something that can be created by the council. It's at the decision of the council, and it can be removed by the decision of the council. As a matter of fact, I know we had discussed that when initial pushback, we had discussed about removing it a couple of weeks ago. But with that said, I'll reiterate what Mr. Jones said back in 27. We're even in more of a pinch now than what we were then. And, you know, a couple of $100,000 over the next couple of years that could be used in the general fund for our taxpayers to go back into the taxpayers' programs. That's where I'm at right now. But with that said, I mean, I certainly would encourage Ms. Ditch, if she feels so chooses to address the council, you're certainly by no means mandated to. And if anyone asks any direct questions to you, you certainly don't have to answer them either, because I want to keep this civil. Mr. Jones, you have the mic.
Mr. Chairman, in 2017, yes, I did vote to abolish the department. But also in 2020, we voted to create the department again.
Part-time, yes, sir.
Part-time, well,
Yep.
we said part-time, but the salary was full-time. So the money is there. I had a chance to meet with Ms. Ditch, and community service is her growing thing. And definitely I need some help in community action. So she will get my support on this.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. And I did reach out to you, Mr. Jones, as you made, and you told me that community action was good. So that, you specifically told me that community action was good. So, I know you say now they need help.
Yeah, but we got a consultant now that helping us along and getting us back on the right track. It was so far in the ditch. Not using your last name, but it's so far.
I'm just saying, I did reach out to you, and that is what you told me. Y'all were good. But anyway.
And I think Ms. Ditch can help continue and bring it back up. So.
Okay, very good. So, Ms. Ditch, you're welcome to make your case or entertain, any questions. Once again, at your total discretion, you don't have to answer any questions whatsoever.
I appreciate that. For those of you that did have the time and took the time to meet with me, I definitely appreciate that. I think that we had some really important discussions, and where, like Mr. Jones just said, it is good. But I do believe that what Lafourche strives for is to be great. And I do think that the team members that I have had a chance to meet with that make up these departments, they are good individuals and they are strong and they do a good job with their individual departments. But I do think that having a leader over all of that can make them a greater team. And I think moving forward with the pandemic and with all the changes that you are just seeing, having a leader in that position is going to be important. And I do know that my resume doesn't say half of the person I am. Those people that have worked with me, and I worked in 6 parishes over the last 5.5 years, and I'm proud of the work that I've done. I'm proud of the relationships that I've formed, and I can only imagine what I can do if I was in one parish by itself. So I hope that you find it to trust me and to believe that the position is needed and pass it tonight.
Very good. Anyone has any questions with Ms. Ditch? Mr. Wendell, go ahead.
I don't have a question, I just have a statement. I'm sorry I was predisposed and could not meet with you, but you and I, although we've never met before, we kind of run in the same circles. I've gotten several phone calls from people who know you, know me, just to talk about you, as well as some of the stuff that you have accomplished and been able to do in your career and in your endeavors. I know some people are worried about, budgeted money and your experience and the lack of this, that, and the other. And I have seen people with no manager experience, but that have the heart and the understanding and the desire to go out there and hold these programs together and make sure that the things don't fall through the cracks that usually do, just to get, that team together like you did. And I just want to thank you for what you've done so far and hope that we can work together in the future. So
I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good, Jim. Any other comments, questions, inquiries? Mr. Lorraine?
Yeah, I'd like to take a roll call vote when all this is done.
Sure, we can do that. Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Ditch. We appreciate you being here.
Mr. Chairman, before Ms. Ditch leaves the podium, could you ask her to state her name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry,
for
Ms.
the
Ditch.
record?
That's on me. Yeah, please just state your name and your address for the record.
Yes, ma'am. Nicole Ditch, 319 Port Royal Way, Houma, Louisiana, 70360.
Thank you, Ms. Ditch. I appreciate it. Okay, with that said, is there any further discussion by the council? There being none, we'll move this to a vote. Mr. Jones? Yay. Mr. Adams? Yes. Mr. Groh? Nay. Mr. Otow, vote nay. Mr. Wendell? Yay. Mr. Perilou? Nay. Ms. DeLynn? Yay. Mr. Lorraine? Yes. Motion passes by a vote of 5 yeas, 3 nays, the 3 nays being Mr. Groh, Mr. Otow, Mr. Perilou, and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Thank you, Ms. Ditch. You're welcome to make a statement if you like.
I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to working with you.
Very good. Congratulations. Thank you, Ms. Ditch. Okay, with that said, we'll move on to item 45, resolution requesting Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, LADOTD, to address several areas of LA Highway 316 by Blue Road, starting in Berg, Louisiana, traveling through Houma, Louisiana, and ending in Gray, Louisiana, where culverts running under the highway LA 316 are collapsing and causing uneven driving surfaces, large potholes, and indentions, grooves, causing the holding of water on the road during and following rain events, creating an unsafe driving condition. This is moved by Mr. Wendell. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Perilou. Any discussion? Mr. Lorraine.
Yeah, I just want to say that the way to get things done with the state is you got to go to DOTD. 6 months ago, I attempted to go to DOTD and I couldn't go. I was told by this council, some of the members, that you had to go to your rep and your senator. Well, I did that. Senator calls me up and says, "What's this?" I said, "Well, that's what the council told me I had to do." So you know what he did with it? He sent it to DOTD. So if you don't go to the main source, you're never gonna get nothing. And it's gonna be hard to get something anyway. But if you put it in writing and you send it to them, you got a better chance of getting it. Because some of the higher ups are gonna get this. So I'm gonna support it because mine should have been supported 6 months ago. But they weren't, it wasn't. So I don't know what changed. Michael Grow, August the 11th, y'all passed on, I wasn't here. But this is what you gotta do.
Mr. Rowley, I just want to mention, yours did pass. You
No.
made an amendment and it passed. So,
No,
so you're
no.
incorrect on that.
It did not go to, y'all wouldn't let me go to DOTD.
You made an amendment. The amendment passed.
Went to the senator and the representative. Okay? This is going to DOTD. This is no different than what I attempted to do. The only difference is you wouldn't let me do it. And I'm gonna support this. And 6 months ago, I decided to call the clerk and said, I'm gonna try mine again. And it just so happened this was on, and then I got this from Mr. Grohl, which that's what you need to do. So I don't know why you wanted to punish me. You know, you're not punishing me, you're punishing the people I represent.
Okay, very good. Mr. Wendell.
Ms. Lorraine, I want to thank you for supporting that. And I actually have 3 of them on there that are the same thing. I think the issue that we had, because you and I went back and forth at that meeting, you weren't just petitioning DOTD, you were petitioning the direct representatives. And I think that's where the issue was not throwing stones at the representatives, but contacting DOTD to have it done. And I think once it was DOTD with a copy going somewhere else, that we did pass it. We just didn't want to burn bridges before we had to with certain representatives. But thank you for your support. And if you put something on there that's petitioning them to do it, I'm with you as well, sir.
Good job.
Well, the only difference I have now is I got a representative that lives about 500 feet from my house. So.
There you go. I'm gonna call you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jim. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 46, resolution requesting Louisiana Department of Transportation Development, LADOTD, to address several areas of LA Highway 316 by Blue Road, starting in Berg, Louisiana, traveling through Houma, Louisiana, and ending in Gray, Louisiana, in reference to the buildup of side road shoulder materials that over time have become packed, dirt, loose asphalt that prevent drainage of water during rain events, creating an unsafe driving condition. Moved by Mr. Wendell. Can I get a second? Second by Mr. Perilou. Any discussion? There being none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 47, resolution requesting Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, LADOTD, to address the roadway condition of LA Highway 316 by Blue Road in its entirety, Lafourche Parish, Louisiana, in consideration of a study related to resurfacing due to the overall road condition and the heavy commercial vehicle traffic supported as a result of being connected by a marked exit from both eastbound and westbound Highway 90. Moved by Mr. Wendell, second by Mr. Perilou. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 48, resolution requesting the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, LADOTD, to repair the holes on the shoulder of LA1 and to place recycled materials north of West 176th Street, south of West 174th Street, and north of West 167th Street in Galliano, Louisiana, and to also repair the small holes from West 167th Street to West 176th Street in Galliano, Louisiana. Moved by Mr. Lorraine, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Perilou. I'm sorry, Mr. Melvin, sorry about that, Mr. Perilou. I can't miss you right there. You caught that, Miss Carlene? 8 yeas, 1 absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 49, resolution requesting the Louisiana Department of Transportation Development, LADOTD, to repair the hole adjacent to the highway shoulder of LA1 across from West 225th Street off of LA1 on the Bayou side, Golden Meadow, Louisiana. Moved by Mr. Lorraine, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? Mr. Lorraine.
Yes, I'm gonna say this again. There's a hole on the bayou side, not far from the white line. The administrator can tell you, he stopped and looked at it. Archie stopped and looked at it. And a couple other people stopped. And Archie, the parish president, did contact DOTD. He emailed them. He called them, because he let me know. Till today, nothing was done. Somebody's gonna get killed right there. They're getting ready to resurface the streets, the highway, from middle of Golometa, South Golometa, all the way to the Leeville Bridge. And that hole is, somebody gonna get hurt, I'm telling you. You know the trucks that pass on Highway 1 and people pass, it's gonna cave in. And I could tell you, the administrator, well, he's here, Mitch? Tell him how bad that hole is, Mitch. It is.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr.
Mitch
Rich.
Ogeron, Parish Administrator, 154 Remington Road, Lockport, Louisiana. I actually can climb in that hole, it's so large. It's about 4 feet long and it extends probably 4 feet underneath the shoulder. So a little bit more erosion from the bayou and it will certainly collapse entire shoulder.
Thank you, Mitch.
Quite bad.
Mr. Lorraine?
And I was brought up 6 months ago, and not a doggone thing was done. I'm not blaming Archie and the administration, because they did what they had to do. It's just dragging, but somebody, I'm telling you, somebody's gonna get hurt or killed. And that's why I want it on record, because it's on the record previous to this, and it's on here tonight. And I don't know what it's gonna take to get that fixed. It's a crying shame, bro. Crying shame.
Very good, Ms. Lorraine. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 50, resolution appointing 1 member on the Central Lafourche Ambulance Service District Board. Mr. Wendell, on my behalf of the administration, who do you have?
We have 1 vacancy with 1 applicant, Mr. Adam Chauvin.
Mr. Adam Chauvin, can I get a second? Second by Mr. Paraloo. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 51, resolution reappointing 1 member on the Fire Protection District Number 2 Board, Mr. Paraloo for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Paraloo?
Mr. Bruce Dufresne.
Can I get a second for Mr. Bruce Dufresne? Second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 52, resolution appointing 1 member on the Recreation District Number 11 Board. Mr. Wendell for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Wendell?
We have 2 vacancies, 1 applicant, Mr. Guy Campbell Sr.
Mr. Guy Campbell Sr., second by Mr. Paraloo. Any discussion? Mr. Lorraine?
Yeah, I just want to let Wendell know that your recreation people just passed your tax, so now they'll have some funding to work with.
Very good. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 53, resolution appointing 1 member to the Fire Protection District Number 6 Board. Mr. Grove for the administration. Who do you have, Mr. Grove?
Mr. Harold Boudreaux Jr.
Mr. Harold Boudreaux Jr., can I get a second? Second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 54, resolution approving change order number 3 from BET Construction Incorporated for a project titled Additions and Renovations to Lafourche Parish Library, Thibodeau Branch, increasing the contract price by $8,835.81 and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said change order and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration, second by Mr. Paraloo. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 55, resolution accepting the low quote of Complete Network Management Incorporated in the amount of $27,960 for the purchase of computer equipment for the Lafourche Parish Library and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration, second by Mr. Paraloo. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 56, resolution accepting the low quote of SHI International Corporation in the amount of $19,008 for the purchase of Microsoft Office Professional Plus license for the Lafourche Parish Library, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine, second by Mr. Perillo. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 57, resolution accepting the low quote of Complete Network Management Incorporated in the amount of $21,669 for the purchase of computer equipment for the Lafourche Parish Library Thibodeau Edition project, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration, second by Mr. Perillo. Please note that Mr. Window has stepped out of the room. Ms. Carleen at 1801 hours, 6:01 p.m. Any discussion on this item? There being none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas, Mr. Wendell being out of the room, and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. You got it, Ms. Carleen? All right, and we are going to number 58, correct? Yes, sir. All right, just want to make sure T-Boo's still following. Item 58, resolution accepting the low quote of CanDock Incorporated in the amount of $19,350.70 for the purchase of a floating dock for the Lockport Boat Launch, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration, second by Mr. Perillo. Any discussion? There being none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 7 yeas. Mr. Wendell having stepped out of the room, and Mr. Melvin being absent. Item 59, resolution approving a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Town of Lockport and Lafourche Parish Government for the use of property to be used as additional parking at the Lockport Boat Launch, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration, second by Mr. Perillo. Please note for the record, Mr. Wendell has returned to chambers at 18:03 hours, Ms. Carleen. Any discussion on item 59? Item 59, Jim is a CEA with the town and the Lafourche Parish Government. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 60, resolution approving an application for federal assistance in the amount of $2,956,674 for the purpose of operating a Head Start program, and authorizing the parish president and council chairman to sign, execute, and administer said application and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Boudreaux for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 61, resolution accepting the low bid from Thomas C. Construction Incorporated in the amount of $218,900 for the project titled Wind Retrofit of Public Structures, Ward 6 Senior Citizen Center, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer an agreement and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Adams for the administration, second by Mr. Perillo. Any discussion? What exactly is that? Can you tell us, Mr. President?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So these projects date back to, I don't know, probably 2012 or 2013. We got a little over $1 million to do some wind retrofits. There were initially 27 buildings on the list. The first one on the list was actually the courthouse in downtown to do some wind hardening, fix the windows and the doors. Because that's a historic structure, we ran up against some hard costs very quickly. So we ultimately settled on the Ward 6 Senior Citizen Center and the Sheriff's Office substation, mainly because those were the only 2 buildings we could fit within the budget of the grant. So after several years of designs and redesigns and back and forth, they finally bid out the projects at the end of last year. There was some issues with the bids themselves because we only got 1 bid on one, and there were some alternates on the Galliana substation. So after some back and forth again with FEMA, because this is HMGP money, in the state, they finally allow us to process these 2 low bids. So the Ward 6 Senior Citizen Center is going to be wind hardened with some additional roof strapping, some new doors and windows, and same thing with the substation. They're going to get some wind hardening because that is really a critical infrastructure for the Sheriff's Office down there. and they're kind of their only gateway between the offices in Lockport and the port.
Do you have a target like of X miles an hour or something like that, that when they're shoring up? I'm just curious. When I saw wind retrofit, I didn't know if that meant like huge, big fans or something like that.
No, this.
So I get it, it's shoring up.
Mitch, I'm looking at Mitch because I don't remember offhand. It's a Cat 3 or 4. What's the wind speed?
3.
A 4, a 3? Yeah.
Very good. It's clearer for me. Thank you, Mr. President. Any further discussions? There being none, we'll move it to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 62, resolution approving change order number 1 from LA Contracting Enterprise LLC for the project titled Drainage Improvements near West 217th Street, increasing the contract price by $5,667.50 and adding 7 additional days to the contract time, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said change order and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration, second by Mr. Paraloo. Any discussion? Mr. Lorraine.
Yeah, if you see that it's an increase of 5,000, but the next one is a decrease of 8,000, so you're 3,000 ahead.
Good point. There being no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 63, resolution approving change order number 2 from LA Contracting Enterprise LLC for the project titled Drainage Improvements near West 217th Street, decreasing the contract price by $8,666.65 and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said change order and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration, second by Mr. Paraloo. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 64, rescinding resolution number 20-098, which approved a contract between Lafourche Parish Government and the Lafourche Parish School Board for the use of Galliano Elementary School and Golden Meadow Middle School for Lafourche Parish Recreation Summer Programs, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration, second by Mr. Paraloo. Any discussion? Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just so you guys know, these are agreements that we had for the summer rec programs with the schools that we didn't use, so we're just rescinding them.
Very good. There being no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 65, resolution rescinding resolution number 20-099, which approved a contract between Lafourche Parish Government and the Lafourche Parish School Board for the use of Chack Bay Elementary School for Lafourche Parish Recreation Summer Programs, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Adams for the administration, second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 66, resolution approving change order number 2 from Barriade Construction Company LLC for the project titled Priority Road List 2019 Road Improvements to Paytrail Drive, West Camellia, East Street, Belterra Street, and Twin Oaks, decreasing the contract price by $54,861.17 and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said change order and any all relevant documents. This is a co-sponsor by Mr. Jones and Mr. Adams for the administration, second by Mr. Grow. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Number 67, resolution approving an agreement between the Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness, GOSEP, and the Lafourche Parish Government relating to public assistance funding for Tropical Storm Crystal Ball Disaster Declaration FEMA-EM-3527-LA, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Wendell on my behalf of the administration, second by Ms. DeLanne Boudreau. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 68, resolution accepting the low bid, base bid plus alternate number 1 from Frisco Industrial Contractors LLC in the amount of $451,450 for the project titled Wind Retrofit of Public Structures, Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office, Galliano, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer an agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration, second by Mr. Wendell. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 29, resolution amending resolution number 20. What did I say?
29's back in my area.
Item 69. Hey, look, summer 69 was the best summer ever. That's the year I was born. So, hey. Item 69, resolution amending resolution number 20-204 that approved a cooperative endeavor agreement between Lafourche Parish government and Crossed Out Hospital Service District Number 3, DBA Thibodeau Regional Medical Center, and changed it to Thibodeau Regional Health System to provide funding for the Thibodeau and Lockport Head Start playground equipment and to replace the cooperative endeavor agreement to reflect the name change. And authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Ms. Boudreaux for the administration, second by Mr. Perilou. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 70, resolution approving a consulting agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and Gallagher Benefit Services Incorporated to provide consulting and brokerage services and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Grove for the administration, second by Mr. Adams. And we do have several individuals that would like to speak on this topic that did fill out a form. And from what I'm being told, they're all going to be discussing different items, so that's not going to be the repetitive. So, Ms. Priscilla?
Hi. I'm gonna
Okay,
be
just state your name and address for the record, please.
Priscilla Larpenter, 1217 Museum Drive in Houma. I'm here on behalf of Alfred and Associates as the office manager, insurance agent, and service team in assisting with servicing the service work for Lafourche Parish government. I have been in the insurance industry for 38 years and with Anthony Alford's office since the day it opened 24 years ago. We pride ourselves in our service and creative out-the-box thinking to supply good benefits at an affordable premium. Being that there are new faces here since 2010 when we first came into play, we wanted to just give you a brief overview of events to present day so whatever you decide today regarding item number 70, you are fully informed of all the details before making that final decision. I can take this off?
Yes, absolutely.
Must be better. Okay. In 2010, Alford and Associates went through the RFP process, quoting dental insurance. We came in with lower rates and better coverages. We added orthodontia coverage and we added the vision coverage, which y'all didn't have at the time. We didn't do a producer of record. We had to earn it. We had to work for it and earn it. We had to beat other brokers. In 2015 and 16, Justin stepped in to the main spot and started working on the back, and I started working on the backside, doing more of the service issues, the contracts, handling a few enrollment meetings with the team we have. And as to save time, because each one of us is speaking about a few things that are going to be different, I'm going to introduce Erica Bourgeois, who is the most active service team member on Lafourche Parish government's account, who will give you a quick but informative narrative of our current situation. And I wanted to thank you all for your time and your service to our community. It is appreciated.
Thank you, Ms. Priscilla. Ms. Erica? Just remember to state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Erica Bourgeois, 722 McCullough Street, Thibodeau, Louisiana, 70301. Good afternoon, my name is Erica Bourgeois, and I have worked alongside Priscilla Larpenter on this account since the inception of the medical benefits. The whole point of what I'm about to say is that the service is there. We've done the work, we've put in the time to try and make this as seamless as possible on administration. We've gone out and done education on the plans to help the members as much as possible because that is our job as the broker. Regardless of what carriers you decide to pick, our service team is always there and will show up to give you the absolute best. Doesn't matter which carrier you go with, you're always going to run into some hiccups here and there, and you're always going to want your service team to be up to par with that. I, as well, am a citizen of Lafourche Parish, and I do care about the employees and members of this community. I value the relationship that I have formed with these employees, and ultimately, I want what's best for them, and I want to help them along the way to get there. Today, I just wanted to go over a few services that we have provided for the parish over the last 2 years in regards to medical insurance. Over the last 2 years, there have been 235 logged service calls over 2 years. That number does not include the 198 emails logged and the countless amount of cell phone calls. We have even gone as far as setting up an office station at the government tower 4 days a week for roughly 4 months at the beginning of 2019. To have someone on site for employees who want that face-to-face interaction and not, a phone call. I have been available to your employees 24/7 for the last 2 years. The majority of the parish employees even have my cell phone number, and trust me, they're not afraid to use it. And so I do value the relationship that I have formed with them. And out of the 235 logged phone calls, only 80 of them actually applied to the secondary insurance, so roughly about 34%. We as a team have done everything from educating the employees on their benefits to even calling the physicians' offices on their behalf to help explain the benefits should they have additional questions. We've gone as far as creating My UHC accounts for members to view and keep track of their doctor's EOBs when they did not understand how to do so on their own. On top of those services, we have our in-house claims department that walks employees through filing claims and helps them with the processing. This service applies for all lines of coverage, not just medical. When we are told to jump, our response will always be how high. We met with administration this year to discuss alternatives to the insurance plans, and we assured them that there were a good bit of value-added services that we could apply to this group. One example is the UHC Rally Program. This is a UHC Health and Well-Being Capabilities Program. It was established that Lafourche Parish government could benefit from this program to help with wellness and possibly drive down those medical claims, which is causing the increase in premium. Shortly after that meeting, we distributed the information to administration on June 19th with our suggestions on how to get the ball rolling. We did not receive any feedback on this or how to move forward. Another example would be the claims administration portal for Gulf Guarantee. We had Gulf Guarantee, which is a secondary insurance company, set up access to their personal claims processing portal for this group specifically. This would allow us to view the claims files with the secondary for all of the members, which in turn would resolve a lot of the miscommunications between carriers. Now, this was just a temporary solution to help the claims processing until Lafourche Parish renewed in January, and we would look at alternative plan options with and without the secondary insurance. I first submitted this information on July 2nd, then again July 21st, August 11th, and lastly August 19th. We still have not received access to this.
Mr. Grover, relinquish 3 more minutes. Go ahead. You can continue, Ms. Erica.
The last example I will give is on technology. My associates will touch base on this as well, but it was brought to our attention at the meeting that Lafourche Parish would like to utilize more of our technology platforms. We sent numerous invites to administration for our technology platform, Xywave, but according to our system, this was not utilized but maybe once or twice. We also began creating an account for Lafourche Parish government in our benefit administration system. This would allow the group to do online enrollment meetings and new hires should they choose to. We started on the implementation, but we're told to hold off on this and then never received any sort of acknowledgement after on this task. Yes, it does involve a good bit of information from HR, but that is mainly due to the fact that Lafourche Parish is a little different because you guys do self-bill administration. And so we have to get the information from you because you're the gatekeeper. You're the only person that has that. So the above mentioned scenarios are just a few recent examples of ways that we've tried to help benefit the group. I'd also like to give a few examples of ways that we have helped employees direct throughout this process as well. One example that always sticks out to me was one of the first people that I helped at Lafourche. They paid $3,000 to Ochsner for a surgery because this was the estimated cost. So if you know when you go to get a surgery, half the time they don't care about your insurance. They just want their money, and they're gonna charge you the estimated cost. And if you're gonna pay it, they're gonna take that payment from you. So once they ran the insurance, they realized that the insurance was going to cover the majority of this surgery, after they had already charged her the estimated amount of $3,000. When we realized this, I updated the employee. She called Ochsner. She was told by Ochsner that it could be years before she saw the refund for her money. Well, a few weeks later, I was able to have Ochsner refund her money owed, as well as establish a relationship with Ochsner moving forward for the parish, which has helped tremendously with claims filing and servicing. Another example would be when some of the members were still being charged for prescriptions after meeting their out-of-pocket maximum. We used our resources and found a way to distribute prepaid cards to the members to use on prescriptions and copays as needed. The last example I'll give is the division of the parish that was not satisfied with the vision insurance in place. We took their feedback and were able to carve them out an additional vision plan that satisfied their needs. We shop the market each year to ensure that you have the best pricing. We presented multiple options for the 2020 renewal year, which included Blue Cross Blue Shield that was 43.4% higher than the current premium that you were paying. The UHC renewal that we originally came in with was at 29.6% increase. But we negotiated this down to 8% on the medical, and we did 3.3% increase to upgrade you to the Cadillac prescription plan that most of your employees were very satisfied with. So the moral of the story is that we care about Lafourche Parish government. You're not just, a number to our agency. We have a relationship with the members of Lafourche Parish government, and we would like to continue to build on that relationship. Our service is one of our strong suits, and we have continued to service this account as if it were our only account. If there is ever a time that you are not satisfied and we would rather fix the issue and work on it together than separate and just give up all of the hard work, because we went through the RFP process and we did our due diligence on this. And up next, I have Caroline Trish to talk about the benefit administration system.
Thank you, Ms. Erica.
Hello. My name is Caroline Trish. I reside at 106 Corralway Drive in Berg. However, I am a native to the town of Raceland for over 30 years. I assist Erica with servicing and also help with our new technology-based software programs we offer our clients, Bernie Portal and Xywave. On June 17, 2020, we attended a service meeting with Lafourche Parish government regarding the service technology we offer as an agency and how we provide this to Lafourche Parish government. One of the topics we discussed during this meeting was open enrollment. As Lafourche Parish government's broker, we made it our priority to satisfy this request upon returning to our office. I emailed administration the same day for some information that is required to set up the online portal. I set up Bernie Portal's Lafourche Parish government's build-out sheet the next day, which included policy documents, certificates, SPDs, and carrier enrollment change forms, which would need to be mapped and ready for open enrollments. June 23rd was our first run through with Lafourche Parish government account with Bernie Portal. However, due to the vast setup of this group's plan build, we extended our first run through with Bernie to the next day as well. We requested information for the online enrollment portal throughout June, July, and August from Lafourche Parish government administration and was submitting this information to Bernie Portal. We take the responsibility of building out your group and doing the run-through with Bernie Portal for you, which dissects all the plan's details, specifications, rates, functionalities, etc. Throughout the portal and ultimately having a seamless function of the online portal, Bernie Portal will allow you to be able to streamline your HR functions such as renewal time, open enrollment meetings, onboarding new hires, carrier forms are mapped out and stored, detailed reporting capabilities, and more. We recognize that this was something that Lafourche Parish government was interested in and wanted implemented. As one of our services, we offer the online benefits enrollment platform typically with no work on your end during implementation to aid with the ease and provide ample time for other important responsibilities you may have as our client. However, due to self-bill administration, this build-out was a little more in-depth upon implementation. Once this is in the online benefits enrollment platform correctly, it will correct itself as necessary. And like I said, we received all the information from Lafourche Parish Government Administration. However, on August 11th, 2020, I received a notice to halt all activity related to the Lafourche Parish Government account portal until further notice. And I will have Joshua Alford come up and speak more about our technology program.
Thank you, Ms. Carolyn.
Joshua Alford, 407 Ardorn Drive in Houma, Louisiana. And so to piggyback on what Caroline was saying, Similar to our services for shopping, insurance products, and carriers, we're not beholden to any one product when it comes to technology or software. And Xywave and Bernie Portal are a result of an extensive evaluation of products in these respective categories. The two categories being a benefits administration platform, like Caroline referenced, and an HR resource portal. This is an example of what Bernie Portal does, and that is your benefit administration system that we are setting up for open enrollment. And that's applicant tracking, onboarding, benefit enrollment, paid time off tracking, time and attendance, compliance notices, performance management, 1095C reporting, payroll integrations, a mobile app, and 1094C and 1095C filings, along with medical health questionnaire software. So we've used this for a number of clients, and they've all been happy with it. But of course, we're always looking to improve. So if there is a piece of technology out there, that's why I'm emphatic in saying we're not beholden to any one piece of technology, just like we aren't beholden to any one insurance company or product. So the HR resource portal, you have ACA reporting, job description builder, COBRA notices generator, employee cost calculator, FMLA advisor, federal poster advisor, and compliance notice builder. You have an OSHA log, health plan compliance calendar, HR self-assessment, sample job descriptions, interview question builder, multi-state comparison tool, performance review builder, total compensation statement builder, employee handbooks, and salary benchmarking tools. So all of these that I've just named are a free service. It's a value added, and the administration has had access to the MyWave portal toolbox since the inception of the group, and obviously we were in the process of getting them online with Bernie Portal for open enrollment. So there are always complications, especially when it comes to insurance and technology. It's all about the solutions and not the problems. The reason we're here today is to tell you there is no problem without a solution. And, you know, we appreciate the business, and we thank you for hearing us out.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, Justin?
I'll try to be quick. Sorry, I don't want to seem like we're holding a filibuster up here. But agenda item, this is Justin Bourgeois, Houma, Louisiana, 102 Brentwood Drive. Agenda item 70 is a resolution to take away all the work that's been in place. That's disability, life, cancer, critical illness, dental, vision, medical, secondary insurance that we had offered and associates have put in place over the past 10 years. We've been working on this account for 10 years in different capacities, right? We had different pieces of it. And, you know, we make between 11 to 17 enrollment meetings for the month of December each year with multiple members of our team to present as if we are, you know, this is our only account, right? And as you can see, we do a lot more during the year to try to help and do the best job that we possibly can. Just a few things to point out. On that dental and vision, when you fast forward to 2019, we were able to save an additional 2.5% on the medical by putting that in place. Saved a pretty substantial amount of money. The disability and life in 2017, I stood in front of you. We were able to double that term life insurance. Instead of your employees getting $15,000 for the same price, you got $30,000. As far as the ancillary accident, cancer, critical illness, we took that over in 2018. Your current broker at that time had received a 0-9 vote against him at that time. We were able to take that over. That's the only one that we didn't take over in the RFP process and have to fight on the price. So for the medical, we've looked at the medical since its inception, since we've been here in 2010. We looked at it many, many times, and we made honest recommendations. We said, unless you're not happy with the service, guess what? Keep it with the guys you have it with. They're doing a good job. You got really good plans and rates for what was appropriate. In 2019, we disagreed on that. We were able to save the previous administration $769,000, and the richest of the three plans out of pocket was $2,750. Now it's $1,000 when you look at the secondary. That's a lot of money to some of the workers and employees of Lafourche Parish government. $1,750 can be a tremendous amount of income. Also, you know, it may end up being a couple of extra phone calls for them. It may end up being they call us and we end up handling it with the doctors, the hospitals, inpatient, outpatient services, but it's a lot of money. We understand that caused a little bit of disruption, but it was able to create a 2% cost of living increase for all your employees. That was what 40% of that $769,000 was able to do. This year, we were told that administration wanted to switch the plan to just the United Healthcare Blue Cross Blue Shield plan. I don't blame them. I understand. That's their decision. We are 100% ready to do that. That's why we requested that information in June, so that we could quote on the account early, and we still never received the full amount of information that we asked for. As they stated, we did get everything together they were asking for United Healthcare. They said, look, we want the weight loss program, we want the diabetes, we want the smoking cessation.
Go ahead. Mr. Adams, relinquish 3 minutes, Ms. Corleen.
Thank you. We ended up putting between 6 and 8 different programs together. We were ready to distribute them. All we needed was names and emails for the employees and the addresses if you wanted us to mail them out. We were going to do it on our dime. We were going to print them, mail them, make sure everybody was notified, and we were going to do it on a monthly basis, not to overwhelm your employees. That was, we were told to not do that. You know, they went over a few other things that we were able to do. One fun fact, we got the carriers to actually put up and cover over $20,000 worth of COVID-19 tests. Now, the government itself did not put employees on the plan. They put for the employees of Lafourche Parish government. So what that means is you had a certain amount of people that went out and got COVID-19 tested and it wasn't covered by insurance. Guess what? No problem. We ate the bill. $5,000, we agreed to pay it on your behalf out of our pocket for the employees that were tested that was not on the insurance. We didn't even ask them when they asked us if we wanted them to go to their Blue Cross provider, if they had insurance somewhere else. We said, no, don't worry about bothering the good, hard-working employees of Lafourche Parish. We'll take that on the chin. With well over, you know, those 235 calls, like we said, there were 8 claims left, and that's because we received them last week. Those should be done in the next week or so. We try to treat you like you're our only account, and we've gotten numerous compliments on our service from the people of Lafourche Parish government. My question is, where's the RFP process? If you can't beat us on price and you can't beat us on service, you know, what is there? Is there technology? We have plenty of technology out there. So my question is, you know, what are we going to do for those people? Right now, you currently have 54 employees that have met their out-of-pocket max with Golf Guarantee, and that number is only going to increase every month, right? Because more and more people are going to hit that $1,000. They have a card that's in their wallet. That card now has $200. It had $500 on it before. They can use that card to buy any prescriptions, pay any doctors that don't want to listen to the rules of how this works. And guess what? It's prepaid. They give us the receipt. We're done. We reload the card. Okay? That card's a solution that we brought. That card's going to leave with us. So's telemedicine. I'm just worried for the hardworking employees of Lafourche Parish government. I would ask for their sake that we can still continue to at least administer the 2 medical plans through 12/31. If you don't want us next year, you want us fired, that's completely fine. But what I'm worried about is we've got over 30 different accounts that are with Golf Guarantee. We understand how to use this, and we have some special things that we do. And, you know, the other people that you're looking at going to do not. My question would be, you know, do you have any idea of the things that can slip through the cracks between Golf Guarantee and United Healthcare? We've sealed those up. We've spent years working with them on that. Are we firing Golf Guarantee before the renewal? You know, because...
Mr. Jones? Continue, Mr. Justin.
In closing, it wouldn't be so bad losing this account if I knew I was giving you bad service, if I was being lazy, right? If you got me beat on the numbers, or I couldn't provide some type of technology that you needed, look, I understand that, right? The problem is, we know that we have great service. We got you great numbers. We've been able to work through that. We've got great technology. To be honest, I really can't tell you why we're being let go. And that's the hardest thing for me. And so, you know, if you do pick another agency, you know, let's look at somebody local. Let's not look at, you know, Chicago, Illinois. Sending money out that way is somebody in St. Mary's Parish. So win or lose, we have faith in the Council of Lafourche Parish Government. We can leave these chambers with our head held high, knowing that we did the best job that we could for the hardworking employees of Lafourche Parish Government. We didn't compromise our principles, our ethics, our morals in doing so, and that means a lot to us.
Thank you, Justin. Had a couple of more sheets. Is Hunter or Katie going to address? No? That's it? Okay. Thank you, Al. Okay, so that's everybody I had. This is back to item 70. Any further discussion? You got your light there, Mr. President?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start out by saying a couple things. First of all, during the transition, I met with every single one of the field offices. Mitch, Savanya, and Dylan did it again over the last 7 months. 95% of the employees want us to change insurance. 95% of them. And I got a stack. And I could read them, and I'm not, because I don't want to make anybody look bad tonight, about the horror stories of the insurance. I could tell you that this was an open process, and they were, you know, Justin mentioned RFPs. They each submitted. We interviewed 3 companies. It was Alfred, Larice, and Gallagher. They each turned in an RFP with all their qualifications in it. Again, I go back to what I said when I talk about Nicole. We tried to do this in a very open and honest way because we know the circus that it became the last 4 years and the debacles and the last minute special meetings and open enrollments on Christmas Eve because the previous administration couldn't get their act together. So we interviewed each one of these companies. In the meetings, and that was me, Mitch, Savanya, a member from the library's office, and Christy, who's our HR manager. In those meetings, we told Alfred about the problems that we had with the insurance. The hardworking men and women of Lafourche Parish Government, the issues that they face consistently, where they didn't know what they were gonna have to pay when they went to the doctor, what bills they were gonna get in the mail. To the tune where we even had a meeting after that interview with a local doctor clinic out of Thibodeau who was gonna stop seeing about 80% of the people in the plan because there's so many issues with it. Mitch had to step in through a personal relationship and fix that instead of the broker stepping up and doing it themselves. So I understand that they're gonna lose a book of business. Tony and I have had a lot of conversations over the last couple of days. A lot of text messages went back and forth. I know they contacted each one of you. This isn't about who you are, who you know, who you had call me, who you had call you. But after all those phone calls started flying, it became very apparent that, oh, well, we'll give you whatever plan you want. They weren't willing to admit in the broker interviews that the plan they had, our employees didn't like, and we had issues with it. After that, they're all right. They started sending us a load of information about all the technology and the Bernie portal and everything else, and we pumped the brakes on it because we knew we were probably going to move in a different direction. It was at the 11th hour, and it was just too late. I sent you guys an email today, and yeah, they saved the previous administration about $800,000. They did it on the backs of the employees. When I left here in 2015, I was paying $119 for a family plan. When I came back to sign up on that same family plan with my wife and my 2 kids, it'd be over $700. How are we going to sell that to a guy in the field who's digging on a machine all day trying to keep drainage going, who's making 14 and 15 bucks an hour? You can't. They built this plan on the backs of the hardworking men and women that they want to sit up here and say they've taken up for. Now look, I'm not going to dog anybody. You know, Tony's a great guy, and everybody's here are great persons. This is not personal. This is not political. Like I said, I can go through all these emails, and I'm not, because that's not what this is about. This is about moving forward because the employees wanted to change, and this is what's best for the employees. And I will stand up here and I will beat my fist on the desk and I will scream as loud as I can. I will have these guys' backs every day because they're the men and women who make you and I look good. They're the men and women who are digging the ditches, who are cutting the grass, who are keeping building permits in check, who are taking care of squatters in Rita, who are, you know, all the fun stuff that they do day in and day out. That's why we're doing this. So with that, you know, I'll use a line from my friend Daniel on the other end. Just vote your conscience. But We have employees here, and I'm not gonna ask them to speak, I'm not gonna put them on the spot, but we could parade people up here. We could, and we could talk about the issues, we could talk about the out-of-pocket cost and everything else, the problems that we have with it. My plan is to get a broker of record who can go to the market, so we don't have to fight about price. We don't have to fight about, well, can you really bid out insurance fairly? And the reality is you can't. Because once you sign a broker of record agreement, or you sign a broker of record letter, and that person's gonna lock up that market. And there's not gonna be a fair competitive bid process on insurance. You can't do it. They can say you can, but you can't. So the plan is to have a broker of record who we can work with over the next 4 months, who can get us back to a plan that's close to what we had way before the previous administration had the insurance debacles of the last 4 years. To get the employees back to some reasonable copays, some reasonable out-of-pockets, and some reasonable premiums. We have that wiggle room in the budget. I told Renita several months ago that we were gonna budget for cost of living increases. We weren't gonna budget for merit increases. Because my merit increase to the employees this year, we're gonna be sucking up some additional insurance costs if we had to get them back to a reasonable rate. So that's what this is all about. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I think.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Perilou.
Yeah, I remember the fights very well over the last 4 years about the insurance. The employees were very, very happy with what they had when a few of us started 5 years ago. But the last administration, no, that's not good enough. We're gonna present something else. And he did that. And as you know, all the rates went through the roof since then. The competition over the last 3 or 4 years, the grandfather rates, we lost when they decided to go a different route, okay? So we lost on the employees' backs, and a lot of us on this council begged the last administration, please don't tinker with the insurance, but he did anyway. My main concern tonight and my main question on this resolution and hiring a broker of record, the council in last December voted on this policy that we have because it was the only one that was presented by the parish president, okay? We didn't get to pick and choose which policy, which carrier and all that stuff. We voted on the broker and the policy that the administration put before us. Now, tonight, if we go with a new broker of record, that's basically penalizing Alfred and Company or Alfred Insurance Company for the remaining several months of this year at no fault of their own. My main concern is why can't we sign a broker of record with, and that's your prerogative. I mean, you put whatever you want before the council, but why punish them for the last several months of the year and remove them from administering the current policy as it stands? Is Gallagher prepared to pick up someone else's policy? And with these different moving parts you saying was so confusing, they would be coming in blind to this process. So I'm just asking, why can't we just let this company administer the insurance through 12/31/2020 like this council voted in last December? We awarded them that contract for a year.
Mr. President?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Chairman, you laugh at me every time I do this, and I'm gonna look at Mitch, because Mitch is gonna be explaining this a hell of a lot better than I can, because he does this day in and day out. As I appreciate it, I don't know that we can just sign a broker of record agreement and let one company handle a current situation while we let another company run. We can't have two brokers at the same time. We have to have one. And I'll let Buddy come to the mic and he can talk about his ability to pick up tomorrow morning and run with it, because I think he can. But Mitch, you want to talk about the broker part, Mitch?
Go ahead, Mitch.
Mitch Ogeron, 154 Remington Road, Lockport, Louisiana. What we're doing here at the end of the day, when we're using the term broker, we're changing agents. Let's say you are utilizing a particular insurance agent for your core insurance, and you're not satisfied with that agent anymore, or you want to move in some sort of other different direction. We're changing agents. Whether you want to call it broker agent, for example purposes, we can say that that's what we're doing. We're changing agents. At the end of the day, in terms of efficiency, for us to change to Gallagher is the easiest, best method to keep it clean, because simply what we're doing is allowing Gallagher to get our large claim reports and gather all the information that they're going to need in a very efficient manner to go to market in the next really month, once the broker of record would become effective, to start looking at all the carriers to figure out exactly what our costs are going to be across the different carriers and the various plans, so that we can come to you timely so we can get approval and move forward with the new plan. At the end of the day, that's what we're looking to do. It's all about efficiency and to have that one-stop shop where there's one person to go to, there's only one individual to deal with, and then that is going to be Gallagher Benefit Services. And to the point that Archie was talking about with regards to whether or not Gallagher can pick it up, the type of plan that we have, and in my past experiences, these gap-type plans are utilized in smaller organizations. And Gallagher Benefit Services has worked with other organizations that are both large and small. So they have the experience with working with Gulf Guarantee. They have experience with working with UHC, Blue Cross, and all the other insurance providers out there, plus the dental division and the ancillary policies. So at the end of the day, they have the capability and they have the experts across their spectrum to be able to provide those services and to do it very efficiently. Again, the key is efficiency and bringing it all into one location to where we can go to market and actually present something with you guys timely is the key here. Thank you.
Mr. Lorraine.
If you think you can satisfy everybody all the time, you're mistaken. Every insurance agent that comes to that podium has the best insurance. Every one of them. They're not going to come up here and tell you they got a bad insurance. I talked to some of the employees on the South End, how they felt. At first, there was some bumps in the road. The gap was a little problem, but I think that was solved. And my concern is, I'm sort of like Corey. When these people that pay their deductible, that's up to date right now, and you change over, are they going to have to pay another deductible?
You have that answer, Mr. President? Mitch?
To answer that question, is your deductibles are going to run for calendar year, so January 1 to December 31st. Their deductibles would not go away and there wouldn't be any loss of deductibles or out-of-pocket expenses. All of that would be transferred. Quite honestly, at the end of the day, the contracts that we have for the insurance is with us. So Gulf Guarantee has a contract with Lafourche Parish government. The same thing goes for United Healthcare, Colonial, or any other insurance that we have. So those benefits that they've received will continue to be administered. The only difference is the company that we pick up the phone and talk to when we've got a problem between now and when the insurance flips is going to be Gallagher instead of Alford and Associates.
Because I wouldn't want to see an employee that, okay, let's just say he paid his deductible, and he still got 4 or 5 months left to the 31st, and he falls sick tomorrow, and then he'd have to come up with another deductible?
No, sir.
Okay. And I also want to say, sometimes you think you do something, you're trying to better it, and you make it worse.
Well, at the end of the day, the biggest goal is going to be to get rid of the GAP plan, simply because, with the exception of Family Doctor Clinic, they're not doing electronic billing. And we have a major hospital in this area that will not accept it and is forcing the employee to deal with Gulf Guarantee directly. And we have employees that have had to handle that themselves and ultimately get reimbursed. I don't know about you guys, but I certainly don't want to have to be on the phone in the midst of all the meetings that we have to go through or running a piece of equipment to have to figure out how to get my medical care cost covered and talking to some insurance individual to take care of it. I want to go and present my card, swipe my credit card or give them cash or write a check and be done with it. And right now they can't do that. And that's what we're looking to avoid.
Well, the thing I could tell you is that you ain't going to make everybody happy, period. I've been trying to do that for a long time, and I can't. okay? And sometimes you think you're gonna do something better, and it's worse. Only time will tell.
Well,
And I think I had a mixture. Some people liked it, some people didn't. I never had a problem with it. So it all comes down. You want to tell you what it comes down to? You really want to know? Politics.
Okay, Mr. Fairlew.
Yeah, so basically, I understand employees aren't happy with, I never received a negative call on it myself personally, okay? I think you have every right as an administration to go in a different direction for January 1st, 2021. But to penalize Alfred Insurance Company, who's been carrying the load, carrying the hard work as far as implementing everything that the last administration told them they wanted them to put in place and the council voted on for the entire year. I mean, preempting that, I mean, I think we should be morally adept to honoring our obligations contractually. So, you know, that's my stance on it. I just don't want to fire someone for a reason that's out of their hands and hire someone else for the last 4 months of a contract we've entered into that probably no one's going to be any happier between now and December 31st, regardless who's administering the insurance policies. That's my point. So I'd like to enter into an idea of maybe asking a DA's opinion on if the current agent can fulfill their obligation through the end of the year while a new agent of record prepares for next year on our behalf.
I would also submit that what we're asking the council to approve here is done the same in industry every day. Folks change brokers of record all the time, and it's done usually several months before they actually renew their plans.
In the private sector?
In the private sector, yes, sir.
Okay, this
That
is not the
happens.
private sector.
But again, the practice of administering insurance remains the same. And you can pick up the phone and call your colleagues in other areas, and I'm sure you're going to get the same response. Simply because to be able to go to market and get all the information, we have to make the swap.
I understand we have to make the swap for the next leg of insurance for 2021. I'm talking about 2020. Why can't we hire your agent of choice, but let the existing carrier fulfill their obligation through the end of the year? That's all I want to know.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. President.
Because we're going to wind up in the same circus we wound up in the last couple of years, where we're at a special meeting trying to hire a broker of record at the 11th hour. We're trying to prepare budget numbers now. Buddy's not going to be able to go to the market for us if he's not the broker of record or the agent. So there's going to be no way for Buddy to get us good insurance numbers for a budget to present a contract to you guys. It's hopefully sometime in an October meeting, so we can do open enrollment in November. I don't want this to be the circus that it's been the last couple of years, Buddy. And I fully, Buddy, excuse me, I'm sorry, Corey. I fully appreciate what you're saying, and that in a way we're putting these guys in a penalty box. Get it. But if we don't, then we're going to end up at the 11th hour again, and we're going to be hollering and screaming here at a special meeting in the back end of December trying to figure this all out.
But again, going back to like getting a DA's opinion saying, can they fulfill their obligation while we hire a new agent of record to shop the market for next year?
And then I would, in a way, I would agree with that, Corey, but then you got to wait for a DA opinion. So we got a meeting next week. You're talking about the end of September, hopefully before we could get this back on an agenda. Then you're talking about a month after that until the swap over happens. So now you're talking the end of October before we can go to the market. And again, we're in the same circus we were in 2 years ago, where we're pushing a deadline of December before we can do open enrollments, before we can plug a number in the budget, before we can do any of these things. So I would oppose saying, let's go get a DA opinion just for the sake of going get it. Because again, if we didn't think we were doing the right thing, I wouldn't have put it on the agenda.
I totally respect that, Archie. I'm just saying, doing the right thing by local companies, it should be paramount for this council as well.
No doubt. And look, I mean, we make, you know, condescending remarks about how we're sending money to Chicago. Well, guess what? It may be a national company, but so is Gulf Guarantee. They're not a local company. We're sending that money out of state anyway. We're putting it in somebody's probably Cayman bank account. Hell, I don't know. You know, we got guys on the other end of this that live in Thibodeau that are taxpaying citizens of Lafourche too. So whichever way we go, somebody's gonna be butthurt at the end of the day. I got no better way to put it. But if we're gonna not end up in the circus that we've been in, that you guys have been in, you've seen it firsthand. I got to watch it from the cheap seats, right? But I went up and down the bayou for 15 months talking about how we were gonna set a new standard in parish politics and we're gonna do stuff the right way, we're gonna do it open, we're gonna do it honest, and it wasn't gonna be about who made a contribution to who, or who got you to call who, or whatever. We were gonna do what was best for the employees, and that's what I'm trying to do here tonight.
And that's all I'm asking for, is to do it the right way.
Thank you, Mr. Perillo. Mr. Adams?
All right, hey, how you doing, Mitch? I got two questions. First one is, all right, so if we do keep them to the end of the year and then we hire the other one, then we paying two people, right? No, because they're going to market. They're not going to go to the market for free, right?
Do you have an answer to that, Mitch?
So at the end of the day, they would make their money off the brokerage fees.
So, but
So
two
what
people
they
get
would
paid
collect
this year.
brokerage fees once they collect the insurance premiums.
So we paid two brokers this year?
No, we wouldn't.
Okay. Second question. I mean, I'm a simple guy.
Unless he wants to charge a consulting rate to go to market.
I'm a simple kind of guy, so I want this simple. So we're getting rid of the guy in the middle. We're not getting rid of the insurance, right? So
That's it.
So if they have United Health, that didn't change. They got the same policy to the end of the year.
Correct.
So we just getting rid of that guy right there. We're not getting rid of the insurance. So everything, you know, whatever it was, the what you call it, when you pay whatever. Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Gap plan?
Whatever. So be it. Again, simple. I'm just making sure that their insurance won't change. Is that what you're saying?
Their insurance will not change until January 1, 2020 is when the new policy would take effect.
Okay.
But in order to get the policy we're looking for.
Yeah, you gotta
we are
start looking now.
Prepping now, and a part of that is changing the broker.
Okay, so again, nothing changes, just the broker.
Correct.
Insurance is the same.
Yes. Including deductibles. All of that would continue to remain like it is.
Thank you, Mitch. Mr. President, do you want Mr. Gallagher to address us, or no?
Mr. Buddy.
Well, yeah, so, I mean, real quick, so this is a special meeting, resolutions, and I don't want this to turn into a back and forth, because it's not what it's designed to be. Ms. Lorraine?
Yeah, I just want to say that if the council goes to the DA for an opinion, it's got to be voted on by resolution. The administration can go tomorrow morning and get an opinion. You don't need the council. And that could be done way before the next meeting.
Very good. I'll allow you to come up. Just state your name and address for the record.
Thank you. Katie Fromeyer, 110 Oak Tree Drive, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70124. And I agree with all of you. I don't want this to become a back and forth show. I just wanted to address a few of the things that were said just to clarify. So as your broker, what we've done in the previous year and what we had intended to do this year is we as brokers do our due diligence by going to the market and we shop all carriers. Like I think some of my colleagues have said, we're not beholden to one carrier. So we go, we get all of the viable options, quotes that are out there, and then we present that to the administration. From there, the administration picks the plans that they want to use, and that's what's presented to you guys. So I understand you've had some issues with the plans, and that's something that needs to be addressed, and, you know, there has been a change of guard, and we understand that. So, you know, y'all are looking for something different, but that is part of our job, and that's what we did last year. I think Erica spoke to, there was a 42% increase with the Blue Cross plan. That was similar to the plan you had. So we are presenting all options. It's just what option administration chooses to go with is what you guys see. So to say, all right, let's just change brokers right now, because, you know, we need somebody to go to the market. Well, that was that's part of our job. So that's kind of where I find this a little strange and confusing, because that is part of our job and that is what we were doing. We just did not have the chance to do it this year thus far. And so to just go and say, okay, well, if they don't get better disability and life rates or dental and vision rates, well, they're the broker and they got everything we put in place. That's not normally how these processes go. When we were awarded the business, it was because our rates were better. And so I just find it strange that, you would take someone's hard work and business that they have placed, and based on what the administration that was in charge was asking with the options laid out, and just move that business. So, again, I don't want it to be a going back and forth show, but I did want to clarify a few things that were said, just to make sure that everybody understood what was going on.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Any further discussion from the council? Is that it? Okay, so with that said, I'll just repeat, this resolution is approving a consulting agreement between Lafourche Parish government and Gallagher Benefit Services to provide consulting and brokerage services, so that everyone's clear on that. With that said, no further discussion. I'll move it to a roll call vote. I'll start on this side this time. Mr. Lorraine. Ms. Dylan Boudreaux. Mr. Corey Perilou.
Nay.
Mr. Wendell.
Yay.
Mr. Otan, I'll be a yay. Mr. Groh.
Yay.
Mr. Adams. And Mr. Jones. Motion passes by a vote of 6 yeas, 2 nays, those nays being Mr. Lorraine and Mr. Perilou. Got it, Ms. Carleen? Okay, item 71, resolution approving change order number 1 from Frisco Industrial Contractors LLC for the project titled Wind Retrofit of Public Structures, Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office, Galliano, decreasing the contract price by $244,740 and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said change order and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Lorraine for the administration, second by Mr. Perilou. Any discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. I don't know if I mentioned Mr. Melvin was absent on that last vote too, Ms. Carleen. Item 72, resolution approving an agreement between Lafourche Parish Government and Weimer Grow Flores LLC Architecture and Interior Design for repairs and renovations to Lafourche Parish Courthouse and Annex Building, and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer said agreement and any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Griffith, administration, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? Mr. President.
Let me just say one thing about this agreement real quick. This is going to be a multi-year deal. So Mike and I had a lot of conversations along with the clerk and the judges, especially Marla, or Judge Abel, the new judge, about some needed repairs to the courthouse. There was some old money in the budget. It was about $400,000 from buildings and maintenance. So we combined those 2 old projects into this. This will allow allow Kevin and Andy to get started on trying to figure out what actually needs to be done as far as electrical, mechanical, cosmetic, new windows, stuff like that. If you've driven by the courthouse lately, it's looking a little rough. So this will get them started, and then next year, you'll probably see some additional money plugged into this budget so we can actually do the project come January.
Very good. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas and 1 absence, that absence being Mr. Melvin. Item 73, last resolution. Resolution hiring David Wolf, Special Counsel of Adams and Reese, LLP, for structuring a payment in lieu of taxes pilot package and authorizing the parish president to sign, execute, and administer any and all relevant documents. Moved by Mr. Adams for the administration, second by Mr. Jones. And we do have an amendment to this one. It's an amendment from the floor to item number 73 by Councilman William Adams on the 9/1/20 special meeting. In the third, whereas to add at an hourly rate not to exceed $610 per hour. Is that your amendment, Mr. Adams? Second to that amendment, Mr. Jones? Second by Mr. Jones. Okay, does anyone want to discuss the amendment? Mr. President.
So, Mr. Chairman, I know this is going to throw a lot of people off because that's a lot more than we typically pay attorneys. So let me say, 1, that this is an up to amount. We're not going to pay the $610 an hour. And 2, typically the company who's involved in this pilot picks up the tab for this. Christie has done this before, and we have done a lot of so I don't know if you want to do the background on this now, or you want to wait till y'all approve the amendment? Does it matter?
Go ahead.
Okay.
It's a long meeting anyway, just go ahead and get it done.
I'll try to hurry up. I know T-Boo's hungry.
Well, I don't think anyone was surprised T-Boo offered $610 an hour.
That's right.
Jeez.
So,
the way he works.
I think we mentioned this to a bunch of you guys in the budget meetings. We do have a company in Councilman Wendell's district who is looking to either do an expansion or move out of Parish to an adjacent parish who will remain nameless just directly to the east of us. It's going to be, if they do it here, it'll be between a $25 and a $30 million expansion. Probably one of the largest expansions we've ever seen in the parish. So we started meeting with them pre-COVID, and then it's really ramped up the last, I would say, probably 65 or so days, because they're looking to pull the trigger as to where they're going to go. They got to make some decisions. So, very luckily, we had Christie on board, who has done some pilots, who has done some of this stuff before, and we've kind of started to work on a tax incentive program with the company. We've talked to Jim about it. We've met with all the taxing districts who are going to be affected by this, because we are going to write off some property tax on the expansion. We look at it as, we can either write off the gain that we would see because of the $30 million expansion, or you can watch the whole company disappear and we get X number of mills of zero, which is at the end of the day still zero. So we do need an attorney to come in and actually structure the pilot agreement for us. Not a whole lot of people who do this. Adams and Reese has done it in some other parishes and some other situations with Christie, so that's why we went to them, because we believe they know what they're doing. So that's the reason for the resolution. But we added the amendment in there to show his hourly rate, because after you guys hopefully approve this resolution in a second, this has to go to the Attorney General's office, and the Attorney General actually has to sign off on the rate, but it has to be accompanied by the resolution. So there's still a chance that it gets to Attorney General Landry's office and he says, yeah, you probably shouldn't pay that. And we go back to the negotiating table with Adams and Reese, or if they don't budge, we go find a different company who does something like this. So that's why we're asking for your support.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Adams.
I just want to make it clear there's no relationship right here. I'm not related to these guys, just throwing that out there.
Wow. Any further discussion on the amendment? There being none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Melvin on the amendment. Now we'll vote on the original resolution as amended. Any discussion on the original resolution as amended? There being none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes with 8 yeas, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Melvin. Item I, Parish President, Department Heads, Directors, or Managers' Reports, Presentations, and or Updates. Number 74, Ms. Melissa Battle, Head Start Director, to present a report. Sorry you had to wait so late. Tough meeting to be at.
That's okay.
At the end of.
That's all right. I only have to do it like once a year, so that's good. Melissa Batto, 130 Tyler Christian, Houma, Louisiana, 70360. Okay, so you should have received our PIR report and our annual report with specific information. Just a note, because of COVID, our PIR report was not as complete for student attendance, because we obviously from March to May could not do our regular school year. But we still had tried to complete it with all the other information, and that's pretty much our the data that we collect every year for our program. As you know, this year was a little bit different for us, but I just want to publicly commend my staff, all of them. They are extraordinary, and at the end of May, when we asked them to come back to close out school, they came. They came without question, and they, met, they discussed over the phone with the parents, and they, they did portfolios, and they did an outstanding job. And one of the pictures you'll see, our South Lafourche site just went a step above, and you'll see what they did. This year, okay, what else? Let's see. This year, some of the things that we've done, about the playground. We formed a partnership with Thibodeau Regional, and they donated 2 playground structures, which was somewhere around $40,000. And that way, we had to kind of put some other things in place. We have to remove it, and we have to do some structural things. And so, but them donating the actual structures was a tremendous help, and it's also one of the partnerships that we form with the community, because Head Start, we do like to have partnerships with different community agencies. Our Bayou Blue site has been a tremendous undertaking this year, because a few years ago, about 6 years ago, they redid all the floors. Well, last year we started noticing that the floors were popping up, and we ended up having to redo all of the floors. Well, about a week after the floors, and they were beautiful. They were absolutely beautiful. A pipe busted in the building, and so we had to redo all of the floors. And also what happened was some of the floors, the walls got wet, so we had to patch up some of that. So our Bayou Blue site has actually, it's not started yet, because we had to do some more repairs on that we weren't prepared for. But anyway, it's absolutely beautiful now. Everything's been repainted. All the floors have been redone twice. And I do have some pictures on there of we had to redo one of the cabinets. We are going to be working on our MLK site. We have a roof and a ramp that we're going to work on. We had some drainage that we had to work on with Marydale. South Lafourche, we had gutters. Veterans, we had gutters and a roof. MGC, they're working on the roof. We had some gutters this summer. We're going to replace an AC. We had a porch and some fencing that had to be replaced. Last year, when I came here, I told you about our technology. It had been way behind. We pretty much have updated, I think it was almost like $30,000 of updating computers. Because we have 15 sites. Every teacher 1, teacher 2 has a computer. The center directors have computers. I mean, every employee just about has computers, and plus we have iPads and student computers. So all of that, some of those computers were from 2011. So it was really behind, and we've been able to do that. This year, we hired a part-time tech person, because Head Start is just growing, and we are moving forward with technology. We want our children to be just as prepared as any of the preschool students in the public school system. And so in order to do that, we have to maintain our level of technology. And we are trying to do that as much as possible. Obviously, before our teachers and all of our staff walked into any of our classrooms this year, they had to go through some type of COVID-19 training. They went through 9 hours of training on our Staff Development Day. And they did a tremendous job with that. Last year, we started a safety program, and so we continued with that. On top of COVID training and numerous other trainings, we did an active shooter training. We had someone come in, and they stayed at the site. There was an online component, but we did actually have someone, we followed the safety guidelines, but they came in to each site. And the staff they enjoyed it very much. They felt like they got a lot out of it. And ultimately, in all ways, we want to promote safety at our sites and for our children and staff. This year, we weren't really looking to go in this direction, but we ended up going this way. We have a virtual education program. We tried to figure out the best components. We looked at Google Classroom, we looked at Ignite, we looked at Chromebooks, we looked at a program called TSG, which is a program with the state that collects data on the students' different levels. So we actually ended up, we implemented that. We now have about 183 students enrolled. Our normal enrollment would be 255, but we're registering students every day. And of those 183, now the count is 8. We actually had some parents that did request to have 100% virtual. And although we have a program that they can access the teacher lesson plans, all kind of videos, we also are going to purchase the Chromebooks to have TSG for those particular students to have access to that. And they are hard to get right now. I would tell you, any Apple product is tremendously hard to get. This year, we went ahead, we did our health screenings, we did our academic screenings, we had our Let's Get Acquainted Day, and it went great. And again, I attribute that to the staff. We are going to do an AV schedule. We started yesterday, and I mean, I was amazed. It was like, I was expecting to have a lot of things go wrong, but it went really well. And once again, it's the staff that are dedicated, and they love what they do, and they love working with these children. We have virtual lesson plans the parents can have access to. As I said before, we have the Chromebooks with TSG. We had some COVID funds, and I hired some site assistants because our parents used to bring the children into the classes. Well, they can't do that anymore. So we have to take the children from the cars or the buses and bring them to the class. So we hired some site assistants, and we're going to keep them through December to offer support at the sites. The other thing we're having to do is a lot of cleaning. We always had licensing requirements for cleaning, but we have a tremendous amount of extra cleaning that we have to do of a lot of items throughout the day. So those site assistants are there to offer assistance with that. We have ordered a daily cleaning system, sort of like the one Lafourche Parish has, but we ordered them, we're waiting for those to come in. They have not arrived. We do have HEPA filters that we put in the classes. They've all been put in, and just to kind of keep the air flowing. This is MGC in Bayou Blue. If you can see, that's the back porch that we had replaced this summer. That is on Bayou Blue. That's the cabinet. It's a brand new cabinet, and then see the new floors and the new walls. This is the second floor. Remember I told you this is at the end of the year. This is our South Lafourche staff, and they decided to make it fun. You know, they missed the kids, and so when the kids came to pick up their stuff, this was their way of like sending them off. This year. This is our Let's Get Acquainted Day, and these are some of our children that are starting with us this year. This is our Marydale site. This is our veteran site. We have some children that came in. And normally, this would have been a day where all the children came in at once. They couldn't do that this year. We had to schedule it where they were like one-on-one. And as you can see, we did our academic screening. And there's a few things that I just want to say. We did a total virtual staff development this summer, 4 days. We did a total virtual orientation. All of our registrations were done with DocuSign. The parents did not have to come into the building. It was all done from the office, from their phones. And it was it was awesome. We didn't expect it to be that amazing. So we're super excited about that. The other thing is we actually held our first virtual parent orientation. Again, we didn't know what to expect, but we were following, trying to be safe. We had 71 parents, and it was like super, we were just like amazed. So in all of this, it's been a challenge to change the things that we do and the way that we do things, but it's been a growth process for all of us, and it's just been, it's exciting to see how it's worked so well. I do want to thank the IT department of this parish, because we would not have been able to do any of the things that we've done this summer. The orientation, the trainings, the parent virtual orientation, they have been tremendous to us. We had webcams. We all had to learn how to do it. I mean, it's just all of our meetings have been through the e-tail link. And, we could not have done it without their help. They've been tremendous. And in closing, I want to tell you one thing. I didn't have this in my presentation. We just received the data today. These centers are rated in the state. The state rates them, all the centers across the state. Lafourche Parish's centers, the highest rating we can achieve because of the way we're set up is a 4 on a system of 1 to 5. Out of 7 centers, I don't have 3 of the centers, they didn't come in, but today we got the 4 of the other ones. Out of 7 centers, we have 2 that are 4s. And we have 2 that are 3s. And I didn't receive the other 3. In the past few years, we've had some that are 2s. So we have improved. And our goal for this program, I have my education manager here, and we've talked extensively about this, is that we want to be a nationally recognized program. And we are well on our way to that if you look at the scores on other areas of our program. And we could not have done any of that without the support that this parish council gives us and our parish president. And I just want to thank all of you once again for always being supportive of us.
Thank you, Melissa. Anyone that has any questions? So we get these emails, I don't know if everyone else does, like, it seems like every other day about grants for Head Start. What is that? Do y'all get the same emails I'm talking about? It seems like it's every day or every other day, like grants for Head Start. Usually you copied on them, I want to say. Do y'all just apply for lots and lots of grants? Is that what it is?
You have to kind of watch the particulars of them, because some of them are specific groups, like some of them are for Native American groups, and, you know, they have those specifications. Our grant is a 5-year grant, but you can apply for supplemental grants, and those are not generally those emails that you get. Sometimes I see those grants, like if we would want to be an expansion, like add classrooms to our 15 classes, you would see that, but then sometimes I read below and it's like for certain areas or states or something. So we do look at all that, and believe me, I'm like, I have plans to apply for some supplemental grants. But we watch all of that closely because we try to apply for that. We did apply for some things last year, and I don't know, we weren't chosen for one of them. But we keep trying.
Good. Keep your eye out.
Yeah.
Good. If no one else has anything, thank you very much, Melissa. We appreciate it. Item 75, Finance Representative to present the monthly financial report as required by the state agreed upon procedures for July 2020. Mr. President?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you guys should have gotten the packet from us, I think, Monday, with all the big goofy financials in it. So if you have any specific questions for Renita, she's here. If not, then our next regularly scheduled meeting, or the end of September, will be the full PowerPoint we do with the quarterly recap and stuff.
Yeah, Mr. Adams, you said we still broke. Got any comments on that? Any questions? That email, he sent us an email right back for those who don't know. He's saying, well, we still broke. Okay. Item J, discussion. Any last comments on tonight's agenda? Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want a couple of things. One, I touched on this a couple times tonight, but Renita is pretty well close to being done with the budget. So we started to meet internally this afternoon, and we'll do some more tomorrow with the department heads, looking at revenues versus expenses. And then probably next week we'll tackle the capital budget with kind of the wish list you guys put in for everything, and see how that's going to fit in. For everybody who's watching, the project on 3235 is still ongoing. They're still waiting on some of the electrical items and stuff like that. So as soon as that comes in, they'll hopefully be able to finish that pretty quick. And I know we got a few calls, lots of traffic on Facebook this weekend into Monday, I guess, because LA1 reopened after the storm. A lot of questions about the project that DOTD is doing from Falgout Lane and Golameta all the way to the toll gantry in Leeville. There's a lot of sections that have been cut that they're going to patch. So if you own a motorcycle, I do understand it's dangerous, so just be careful if you travel in that particular area. We did get a few calls from some of the business owners in Leeville about why the project stops at the toll gantry and doesn't go from that point all the way to the boat launch. I talked to Councilman Lorraine about this over the weekend. I think it may have been Sunday or Monday. We're trying to work to set up a Zoom conference with Secretary Wilson of DOTD and Representative Ogeron. When we took over that section, the old sections of Highway 1, both from the toll gantry to the boat launch, as well as the section where the old Chevron dock was and BBY going all the way to the port. DOTD was supposed to repave that before they turned it over to us. They did this, the old portion of LA1 from the Chevron dock all the way to the port, but they never did the section from the toll gantry to the boat launch. So we're hoping to get DOTD to commit to doing that. If not, it looks like it's probably going to fall on us, and it's something we got to look at doing in a road sales tax district 2 project next year. So with that, I know we'll get to questions if you guys have any, but.
Yeah, and I'm assuming road sales tax too, we're going to be committing a good bit of money to this airport corridor project.
Yeah, so we committed a little over 1.2 million for the next 4 years, along with the port to supplement the bill grant. And I will add one thing, Mr. Chairman, because I looked at you and I remembered. We did serve, for everybody again who's watching, I think Herb left. I did owe him a phone call from today. We did serve the squatters in Rita 10 days ago with basically their eviction notice. So we will be out there at 7:30 a.m. to clear off what's left on the property. I was told today by one of our compliance officers they put up a big tugboat rope around the entire property with a sign that says no trespassing. I don't know if they think that's going to stop an excavator, but it won't. So hopefully tomorrow morning, they realize we're coming. We tried to visit them a couple times today, but the first time, nobody was home when I stopped this morning, and the second time, they told me that was the generator wasn't running, so somebody was on a boat, they just didn't come off. So we'll finish dealing with that scenario tomorrow.
Thank you. It's been a year and a half, getting close to 2 years with this fight. Very good. Any further discussion? If not, I'm sorry, Corey, you had something? No, I wasn't gonna, not tonight, not since it's a special meeting.
Yeah, I just wanted to say congratulations to all the teachers and the kids that are going back to school this week. Wish y'all a very successful school year. I know it's gonna be strange with half weeks and stuff like that. And please, everybody, in the morning, afternoon, when you see the school buses, drive carefully around the school buses. Keep the kids' safety at the forefront. Thank you.
Good public service announcement. That said, item K, adjournment, or entertain a motion that with no further business, the Lafourche Parish Council meeting of September 1st, 2020 be adjourned. So move, you had something to discuss?
I wanted to touch bases on Archie on that,
Go ahead.
One-
You didn't have your light on, so that's why I didn't call you. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
I'll put it on after you turn your head.
Hey, go ahead, Daniel.
No, what it is that the people of Leeville, small community, got about 40 businesses in there. And from where the bridge to the boat launch is 8/10 of a mile. But years ago, we passed an agreement with the state that once the two-lane elevated highway is all the way to the Fouchon, the parish is gonna take LA1 below Golden Meadow, all the way to Fouchon, the old way, and all the way to Leeville. That was the deal. But the deal was that the state is gonna come and pave it first, and then it gives it to you. So here we go. We got 8/10 of a mile that they're not doing, which is ridiculous. And it's always Leeville. They got bypassed on the elevated highway, and it seems like they get bypassed on everything. That should be done. Now, I understand the state DOTD, when they're gonna do a project, it's from here to here. Well, they're doing half of Golden Meadow, Falgout Lane, all the way to the bridge. 75 feet from Falgout Lane is the worst bump in the town. Just like over here in Matthews. They did a section, they started by that bridge, but you come 1,500 feet, it's ridiculous. Now, I know they got to start and stop, but the point I'm trying to make is that we had an agreement with them that they were going to fix it before we take it. And an example is, if you go to La Rose in 308 in her district, all the way at the end, that was all paid by the state, but it belongs to the parish, you know. Because we did the same. The state likes to give a lot of things to the parish. Bridges, roads, but they never always come through what they need to do. So I just don't understand that. But I think Mr. Chasson said we're going to talk to Henri Boulay with the LA1 Coalition, and what they promised to do for us, there's a possibility we might be able to put that section in, because that really doesn't make sense.
There's a standard agreement. I know normally the state does do that. All the projects I've been aware of in my area, the state does do one last blacktop before they turn it over. So it is standard.
But it's like,
sometimes it takes a long time though.
it's like, you know, I understand they got to start from here and stop here, but sometimes it's so close, you know. But that's an intelligent decision. That's hard for some of them people. But I got one more thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to thank Mr. Chasson and all the workers that went out and sandbagged. And I had a guy that called me, Dean Chris. Dean and Chris are brothers. You know what I'm talking about. And he invented a little box. He called that a 3A box. And he said he brought it to the Fire District 3. And you can't imagine how many people use it. It's a kunas paton, you call it. And he left it there. And he called me that afternoon if I knew of any elderly people that needed sand. And he said they had a family there, but he didn't know who they were, and I wished I could have found out. Because they stayed there, a man, woman, and a few kids, and they bagged sandbags all day. But he didn't know who they were. I don't know who they were, but whoever they are, God bless you. And I hope you come back, not for a storm, though. And that's what I want to, that's it.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Lorraine, appreciate that. Okay, we got a motion on the floor with Mr. Perillo, second by Mr. Winter. There's no further business. The Lafourche Parish Council Special Meeting September 1st, 2020 will be adjourned. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned with 8 yeas, 1 absence. That absence being Mr. Melvin at 1931 hours.